All right. Hi and welcome to this presentation. As you can see, it's about embracing esports for small to medium-sized studios. But before I start, I want to give you a quick introduction about myself. My name is Niels. I'm a lead audio designer at Giant Software, and I joined Giants in 2021 as audio designer after my bachelor's degree in music technology. And the reason why I'm giving this talk is because I also joined the event team, being mainly responsible for the audio engineering part, but I'm also part of developing the esports mode over time. What I do on a daily basis is my team and I, we are responsible for the whole audio pipeline of the farming simulator games. So we do the in-game audio, post-production for the videos that we release, but also the live audio. So let me introduce ourselves. So Giant Software, I think most of you may have heard of us already, or at least of our games. We are developers and since Farming Simulator 22, also publishers of the Farming Simulator games. Our latest release, the Farming Simulator 22, has sold over 6 million units in total, and we have over 1.1 million daily active users. The game is available on 6 platforms, so PlayStation, Xbox, PC, everything you can imagine. And we just reached a major milestone, which is more than 1 billion downloads of extra content. Our game is highly moddable, so people out there create mods for vehicles, maps, whatever you can imagine, and we just reached that 1 billion mark. Our game is localized in 20 plus languages, and we are available in 165 countries. So now that you know that we are this, did you also know that we are this?
Yeah. I'm ready to play now. Put me in the game now. I came here to prove it. I'm ready to do it. I can't be afraid now. Put me on the stage now. I'm ready to rage now. I feel like an animal stuck in a cage and I'm ready to break out. So what are you afraid of? Those feelings are made of. Get in the game, your moment of fame. Show them what you made of. It's time that we stand up. It's time that we man up. For anyone asking who is the best, we putting our hands up. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. This time, like the last time, you better get ready to race to the top. I'm ready to do this, show you what the truth is. I step on the field, it's time to get real, I'm feeling so ruthless. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop. Lower the lights down, hand over my crown, hand over my heart. I do this for my town, I do this for my crowd. So turn me up real loud. My time, none of you people can tell me to stop.
Pretty epic, right? Before I continue, who of you knows that there exists an esport mode for Farming Simulator? Hands up, anyone? Oh yeah, at least someone. Okay, cool. So the Farming Simulator League, I will just call it FSL, is our very own esports league. And quick explanation how the game works. There are 2 teams playing against each other on an identical map. Each team consists of 3 players. And what they do is they harvest wheat with a harvester. And when you harvest wheat with a harvester, you get grain and straw. Out of that straw, you then have to create bales, and you have to deliver those bales into a barn. And whoever scores more bales after 10 minutes wins the game. There are some drops in between, which makes it more interesting, but that's the basic concept. At the moment, we just finished season 5 at our own convention, the FarmCon. You can see a picture here on the very left. It was at Fendt in Germany, and we had around 4,000 visitors, so it was quite impressive. And we played the finals of the season 5. Each season lasts 1 year, and so far we've given away a prize pool of over 1.3 million euros. And of course, we have esports teams playing our game and competing in our league. But those of you who think of esport teams might think of guys like this. So the typical esport teams that compete in League of Legends, Counter-Strike, like Team Liquid, SKT, ROG, whatever. But our teams, they look a bit different. They look like this. And if you're not really deep into agriculture, you probably have never seen those icons before. But yeah, we do have normal esports teams competing in our game, like My Insanity, for example. But most of them actually are sponsored by agricultural companies or manufacturers. And think about watching your favorite brand competing against your most hated brand. That's actually a thing also in agriculture as it is in soccer or any other sports. In Germany, probably Fendt is the most famous brand. What is it here in the UK? Anyone? John Deere. Let's take that. Awesome. And the teams are sponsored by those agricultural companies, and they compete in their name. So let's come to the main topic of this talk. Why esports, and why it's probably a good idea for you to approach it as well. First of all, competitive gaming always has been a thing and probably always will be a thing. But when I say competitive gaming, most of you might think of games like this, like Rocket League, League of Legends, just to name a few. If you're a bit older, you might have seen the picture on the very left here. It's called Pong, and even though I'm a bit younger, it was still the first game I had my hands on and played competitively because my parents had a console. And if there were games where you could not compete directly against each other, there were at least things like high scores. Games like Sonic, for example. And I bet most of you still remember the latest high score you had in the game with a high score system. What I wanted to say is players, they love to compete. They always did, and they probably always will. Sometimes directly, sometimes via a high score, or sometimes just by bragging out how they did a Mario level without missing a coin, for example. For me personally, it was, for example, StarCraft 2. I was deep in the competitive scene. I also reached like top 2% of Europe back in the days. So what I want to say is probably most of you have played a game competitively to one extent. And this brings us then to the main topic of this talk, which is the power of esports in marketing. And just to give you some numbers here, esports is huge. In 2022, more than 530 million viewers watched esports. Half of them call themselves enthusiasts, the other half are like occasional viewers. Also, the average age of a fan is at an age of around 26, and 60% of the people watching are between 16 and 35 years old. So that's a pretty young audience. And this is a huge amount of people. And depending on your game, some of them, or even most of them, have never heard of the game before, like Farming Simulator. So this means that potentially 530 million people could hear about your game and might also like to compete in it. And while we're streaming, people wrote in the chat, why the hell am I watching people stacking bales? And I start liking it. And it's not only that. Esports is also about emotions. Emotions bind us. Emotions, they make us remember. They play with us subconsciously. Pick any sport you know nothing about. For me, for example, it would be basketball in the US. Go to a stadium, sit right next to a team, and just observe how their emotions influence yours. You start to become part of the team. You start to cheer when they cheer. So emotions are bonding. And if people bond with your game, they probably are way more likely to stick with it. And in the end, buy more DLCs, base games, whatever you have to offer. But of course, when there is a lot of potential, like the potential to reach 530 million people, there are hurdles to overcome. And since we launched the Farming Simulator League, we faced many of them, like really many. And these are the biggest. On the development side, we had to develop an esports mode because Farming Simulator, as you can imagine, was not competitive at all. People wanted to chill, they wanted to drive the tractor, build their farm, but they didn't compete. They found ways to compete by themselves, but not in esports mode that we wanted to present. Then we had to create a server architecture behind it, because usually when players play our game in multiplayer, they play in co-op, so they rent their own server, for example, and play with their friends, but also not competitively. Then we also had to create a tournament client on our website, so where you can see stuff like standings, schedule, patch notes, whatever you can imagine. On the organization side, we had to convince players to try it out. And that was a hard one because our players typically are not esports players. As I mentioned before, they want to chill, want to build their farm. So we had to come up with something to convince them to play the game. They also had to form teams by themselves, but once we had them convinced to try it out, they basically formed teams by themselves, and it was not that hard anymore for us. Then, of course, we had to find the right hosts and casters and the right events. So if you want to have it offline or online, if online, it's, of course, the cheaper version. But if you want to go offline, you can find, or you should find, the right events. For example, the events where esports maybe it's not that big, so that your esports really create buzz. When I talk about buzz on the marketing side, we had to create visibility. And that actually was not that hard as we thought it would be, because when people heard about, hey, Farming Simulator has an esports mode, they were kind of already like, what? And tuned in. So when we launched season 1, we had 750 million impressions on our posts. Then, of course, we had to find partners and sponsors, because as you can imagine, creating an esports mode from nothing is quite a financial investment. And we needed support on that. On the tech side, we had to get a stage setup, or if it's only online, a caster desk setup. So, for example, when we are at Gamescom, we didn't need like a huge stage to show our game. But now with the esports mode, we need like 3 players sitting on the right, 3 on the left, casters in the middle. So we need a setup for that. We, of course, also needed the broadcasting hardware and software. And I can tell you it's quite a complex construct on the tech side, because we have live streams in German and English, sometimes even translated to other languages. We have the live event on big LED walls. We have our tech colleagues that really did a great job in that. All right, let's talk about strategies for a successful integration. In the end, we pulled through, and today we strongly believe that the FSL opened a door to a world we weren't part of before. And if you ask our players out there what they think about Farming Simulator, they most of the time still don't believe that we actually did it. Even there were articles on websites about us where we never thought that anyone would write anything about us. So how did we do it? We did some market research, and we asked 8 simple and sometimes not so simple questions. So who are our players? As I said, most of them, they don't do esports, they want to chill. But we had a core who was interested in competing also on their own. What is entertaining to watch in our game? This is hard, because only plowing a field for 3 hours straight is probably not that entertaining. But we tried something out at the biggest agricultural fair in Europe, the Agritechnica, which is called bale stacking. It's basically 6 players inside a tractor, a front loader attached and a fork attached, and 8 bales spawn around a trailer, and whoever stacks the bales the fastest onto the trailer wins. And people really liked it, so we thought, hey, bale stacking should be like the main part of our game. How are people already competing? As I said, if there is not a competitive mode, they will find ways to compete in it. In Farming Simulator, for example, it was whoever harvests the field the fastest wins, or whoever earns more money in one in-game day wins. So they will find ways. How would we show that? We want it to be like the big ones, like Counter-Strike and stuff. So we want to have professional streams and a professional appearance on the outside. How will it be interesting? So again, that was hard, but we got so much positive feedback from the bale stacking mode that we kind of took that into account and created a new esports mode around that. Then should it be online or offline? As I said before, online is the way cheaper version, but we wanted to really that the viewers can see the teams, talk to them, cheer for them, that we are again at the topic of emotions. People, they need to bond with the team and with the game. All right, now a creation of a client needs to be done and has to be delivered. So once we had these things figured out, we sat together with our developers and came up with the first concept of the game. So therefore, we had these 5 steps. We needed a new client or adjustment to the existing client. So for example, we need to tweak a little bit the physics of the tractors to make it to our esports idea that we had. Then we thought, all right, how do we show the action? So we went back, adjusted the client again, and went back to the next question again. then how do players see it and how do viewers see it? Even though those two questions might sound quite similar, they should be really processed completely different. Because the players, they, of course, should not see what the opponent is doing. They should be able to create strategies around their game. And the viewers, they should see like an epic stream, an epic event. They should see what Team A does, what Team B does. And that's how we approached these questions. And then the most difficult question, of course, at the end, is it fun to play and watch? And that is very difficult as well. We have to work with a lot of feedback here. What can we improve over time? And I cannot tell you how many times we went through those 5 questions. We still do. We usually do it after each season, but sometimes even if we need balance changes, for example, we go through these questions during a season and have to adapt to what is happening in the league. All right, once we had a client or a game mode we were happy with, it was finally time to talk to partners. So we started talking to esport organization or influencers, both the ones that were already covering our game, but also pure esport influencers. And of course, to potential sponsors like Noblechair, Intel, Logitech. But especially the esports influencers who probably never heard about our game helped us tremendously, because they could reach people that we couldn't reach, like the esports people. So they opened a door for us, or a door to people that probably have never heard of our game before and start to play it. But being an agricultural game also gave us the opportunity to approach companies from the real life farming side. And depending on your topic of your game, in what kind of niche you are, maybe there are companies that would like to join and help you with that as well. So we had a client, we started reaching out, and things started to come together. So it was finally time to build a community. And with the league on the horizon and big money to win, some players from around the world jumped in and became part of the community. But not only them, a lot of our core players also at the beginning didn't want to compete, started to compete and form teams around our esports mode. So we created a, let's call it, sub-community. This is not really part of the farming simulator community, but somehow they are. Let's say they are on their own island. And last but not least, we had to work on the viewing experience. So we wanted to have streams like the others, professional on every platform where they're streaming as well. So we needed good casters, and we used to find esport casters that got interested, and even influencers that already played the game. Both of those casters, we wanted to go for a hybrid version. So we wanted to have one caster who knows the game, knows tactics, knows strategies, and we wanted to have one caster who just knows how to professionally cast. We thought that's a good combination. And those two casters then were sent to a boot camp in Berlin to learn from the professionals. And I have a cool story just that you can imagine how such a boot camp works. During lunch, they went out to kebab place with the coach. And the coach said, all right, now just imagine that is an esports here, and do esports commentary on how he cuts the meat and how he creates your kebab. And so they did it, and it was quite funny and cool, I gotta say. And because this is what they have to do during production, right? When you see 15 seconds where a truck is just driving from the left to the right, it's not that interesting, but they have to make it sound interesting to keep the people hyped and attached to the stream. And lastly, our community team took the time on the weekends or at events to do some chat interaction, especially to keep new players attached to the game when they have questions like, what the hell am I watching here? Or they also do stuff like surveys, giveaways. We always give away an expansion or DLC or whatever when we have a tournament. And it worked. However, as probably Steve Jobs would have said, there was one more thing we wanted to do, and that was offline events. We wanted to be able for the viewers to cheer for their team, to talk to them after the event, to really create that bond between the viewers and the teams. And now, today, the FSL has tournaments in Germany, Switzerland, Poland, the UK, and France, and we're always looking to expand. And these events gave us huge amount of visibility and a crazy amount of like what this is actually a thing moments, and they still do. So we still get even today I got the question, what, there's an esports mode? Let's at the end quickly talk about marketing integration. So on the social media integration side, what you can do is you can use platforms like Twitch, YouTube, or Facebook to live stream your esports events. You can, or you should probably, promote those events on your brand social media that you can reach a broader audience. And you can create videos of highlights and clips. You can share memorable moments or some fail compilations. Work with the video team together to create videos. On the content marketing side, you can shoot behind the scenes content. So for example, how we build up the stage over time, doing a time lapse, or how the preparation process goes. Then you can do interviews and profiles. So for example, you can pick the player of the week because he did like an amazing, crazy play at the beginning, and you can create an interview or a profile about him. On the offline marketing side, it's useful to set up a booth or activations at your live sports event. That just provides a little bit of physical presence and face-to-face interactions. Then, of course, you can sell merchandise branded with, in our case, for example, the team icons, or you can sell accessories, collectibles, whatever you have to offer. But there is more. On the social media integration side, you can use your existing game to promote the new game or any upcoming events. You can offer exclusive in-game items, like small transactions which may drive in-game sales and brand loyalty. On the content marketing side, you can send out newsletters or email updates about upcoming events, even about players of the week, for example. And this exclusive content can then be released on your website and can be shown to the gaming community. On the offline marketing side, again, you can engage the audience by organizing esports-related contests, for example, like predicting tournament outcomes, doing raffles, doing giveaways. Another opportunity or possibility is to have interactive live streams. So you can host Q&A session, polls during esports live events to encourage like a real-time engagement with your esport mode or game. All right, let's come to a conclusion. So embracing esports can open doors to new opportunities and a broader audience, ultimately contributing to a long-term business success. And implementing esports needs time, effort, and as I said, quite a bit of financial investment, depending on the scale you want to go for. And if farming simulator can be esports, I think probably everything can be esports if you are brave enough. And don't forget, it's also a lot of fun. All right, then I just quickly if you want to have a deeper look into the farming simulator, into the FSL, there's a cool video from a YouTube channel called People Make Games. There's a guy who followed the New Holland team for quite a while and gives deep insight views of how they prepare, how they play, and how they are handling emotions. All right, thank you a lot. If you have any further questions, let me know. Yes.
Thank you very much. First of all, I just want to say thank you. That was absolutely fascinating, and I can't quite decide if it's insane or genius or a bit both, but it's fantastic to see and hear.
Agree.
I guess you mentioned a lot of the tensions in terms of your incumbent user base, their personalities, their chill, obviously, and as you address, farming simulator doesn't necessarily, it doesn't scream, competitive gaming in that sense. What drove you guys to make the decision of let's try to make this happen? I guess, and also, were you not worried about alienating your core gamer group in terms of this thinking, oh, why are they focusing on this and not channeling energy into?
I think
maybe one.
We did some, as I said before, we did some market research, and we heard the number like 530 million people who are watching esports, and there's still many people who don't know about our game, and we wanted to kind of bring them in, attach them, and reach those 530 million people. That's basically it. Did that answer your question? So you mean if we did anything to bring our player base to the FSL?
I guess were you worried about it at all? Were you kind of thinking, actually, could this really backfire, and our core user base would all of a sudden perceive us as trying to be going after something that doesn't necessarily relate to our core game, and that a part of the decision making and consideration?
I think, to be honest, not really. We, of course, there's also risk that the whole thing fails. But as I said, there were so many people that when they heard about this, that we are doing an esports league, they were just like, wow, okay. And they tuned in and started liking it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for giving the talk. Again, I'm in the same camp. It's pretty fascinating, like what you've done. So my question is on influencers. So you said that you reached out to ones which weren't directly related to your game.
Yeah.
What was the incentive that you gave, or even the pitch, to actually get them on board and start streaming?
So do you mean the esports influencers or the influencers that are already covering our game?
The ones which weren't covering your game.
Yeah, we basically told them about the esports mode, and they gave us this moment, which I talked about, that like, what? That's a thing. And they got really interested. So no one really said, nah, I don't want to do it. So yeah, they were super cooperative and helped us immediately. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I just wanted to understand, how did you measure the impact of the entire esports edition? And to add to that, does sponsorship cover most, or like offset most of the cost of running these tournaments?
Yeah. I have to say, actually, that our events, they even make money. And we just pitched our esports mode to the partners that we have. So, for example, season 5 was sponsored by Helm, which is a big agricultural company in Germany. Beforehand, I think it was season 3, it was Corteva, also a huge brand. And I think it's a win-win situation. They get visibility, and we get financial investment in that. And they were absolutely willing to do that. But we also have like smaller sponsors. For example, Elton, they basically create shoes as well. And we have an agreement with them, for example. They kind of sponsor our esports mode a little bit, but we have to wear their shoes when we are working at events, so they get visibility to that as well. Yeah.
So it's essentially like another stream of revenue rather than like a direct impact on the game itself. For example, like an influx of new players.
Exactly. I mean, it's not really completely separately, because if they sponsor the FSL, they probably always have an agreement that they have a banner in our main game. But usually, yeah, you can separate that. Welcome.
How does this interact with your mainline games? So when you update that one or make a new game, does the competitive game stay in place? Is it like, so it's like developed completely separate from it?
Yes, it's completely separate. Although the esports mode is integrated into our main client, they are still two completely separate things. So if we want to update the base game, we just update the base game. If we want to update the esports mode, we just update the esports mode.
I have a question. When did it start? How old is this project? And how many people are in a team of this export?
Yeah. So thanks, Pedro. We started 2019 with season 1, which, by the way, was, first of all, it was just online at that time, but later on we decided to go offline. How many teams we have? So the teams that are competing in our league are probably like 20 to 30 teams competing in our league. But there are many teams that play it competitively but don't sign up for the tournament. Like for Giant software? Yeah. We are not allowed to take part. Yeah. sadly not. But that's a cool one actually, because some companies, like for example Herman, they make big sheds in a real life agriculture. They have a team that consists only of employees of Herman. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go. I'm over here on your left.
Oh, sorry. Like Mike went there.
Yeah, no, all good. So I was just kind of interested in what your experience has been with engaging with like the agricultural brands, because I think with traditional esports, like the bigger ones, it tends to be, you know, companies that are already in the scene and aware of it, you know, tech companies and stuff. But it sounds like you've done a really good job of, you know, engaging those agricultural brands that don't necessarily understand the scene. So what's your experience been with engaging with them and like educating them on the scene and like?
So didn't quite get it acoustically.
Sorry. So it was basically like how the agricultural brands see it when you approach them to pitch it to.
Yeah. Actually, they love it because they get a lot of visibility through it. We have quite a few viewers in our live streams, and also at live events, the booth is always full. So, and how it develops is kind of there are separate ways how a team forms or gets sponsored. Either the team is that good that really the manufacturer approaches the team and say, hey, I would love to sponsor you. So they already heard about the FSL and said, hey, I want to sponsor your team. But also sometimes the company approaches us and says, hey, I want to be part of that. Can you please reach out or connect us with some players that we can sponsor this team?
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi. Thank you very much. I'm here at the back.
Thank you.
Hi. I will just go out of the usual conversation a bit. It says you are hiring. What I'm interested in is that how did you get people to work for you or work for this game? Because you are doing something completely different. So it's not a traditional game field, you know, young people are interested in developing. So how did you convince them to work for you?
So how we convince people to work for the Farming Simulator League? Is that
yes,
question?
Developing the game.
Yeah, it's completely done by us internally. So people that already work at Giants, they worked also on the esports mode. So there weren't additional people hired for that.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you for the talk. That was really fascinating. I'm just wondering, from a more traditional esports perspective, there are certainly like moments in normal broadcasts where you have the highs and you have the lows, and the lows sort of drag along, and that's actually quite an important part of like, say, something like Dota 2, where you have the moments that the carry is just farming and people sort of on the side.
Yes.
And this is where you introduce a lot of things like infographics and these other things that help you ride that low, which is important to have. And from the sounds of it, it exists. Do you use any of this sort of things? Do you have like a team doing data analysis and producing infographics and things like that?
So our solution for that is really to have good casters, because for us still it's tough to, as you said, if a tractor or a truck is driving 15 seconds, it's not that impressive. So people get like, oh, come on. So no, the casters will completely have to hype it during that time. What we do is on the tech side, we have stuff like, how's it called again? It's a special screen layout where they can see some more interesting things.
An overlay.
Sorry?
Like an interface, like an overlay.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, that's basically how we approach those things.
Hello. Thank you so much for the talk. I think it's really fascinating that you designed a completely separate kind of game, because a lot of people try to incorporate it into the existing game. So that's really cool. I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about your transition from offline events to in-person events and like how that went. And did you outsource people to kind of host those, or was that part of the company?
Yeah. No, it's really everything is done by ourselves. So we have a dedicated event team. So we even have 2 trucks and 2 trailers with all the stage set up. So basically 1 week before, for example, Gamescom, we go there, set up the stage, and be ready for the event time. So we don't hire anyone externally. It's all done by us.
Did they have sort of knowledge of esports prior to this, or?
I wouldn't say so. It's more about events where they have knowledge. We have an event manager and 2 event coordinators, and they know how to set up a stage, how to do the lighting, the audio, and stuff. But esports, that's all came through feedback and experience. Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, thanks again. That was super interesting. So my question again harkens back to some of the sort of classic esports titles we've seen over the years. They tend to be competitive games by nature, and so they don't really need an esports scene built around them. It's baked into the game, and people want to be competitive. More recently, we've seen some titles that have tried to create an esports scene around them that aren't competitive by nature, and have done quite poorly. So my question is, are there any specific decisions you think you've made to avoid the pitfalls of trying to create an esport of something that isn't inherently competitive?
Yeah. What really helped us, first of all, are our partners and sponsors. They really gave us visibility and, as I said, that buzz around the Farming Simulator League. And I think we also had that benefit that when we said, hey, there is a competitive farming simulator, people were like, okay, I have to watch that. And people like it. People get attached to it. So, and as I said, those 5 questions that we go through every season, it's super important to do that. We do that even in between seasons, just that we know that what we show and how we show it is up to date and a great esport mode.
Thank you.
Hi. I've been in esports for 25 years, and I think this is pretty cool, this league. Have you tried selling this league to media companies, somebody like Eurosport, for example, or are you relying on just Twitch?
Not yet. And for stuff like that, I'm sadly also the wrong person, because I'm lead audio designer, so I don't think that I could say, hey, we sell it now to Eurosport there. We have to talk to our CEO, CSO. Yeah. But that's a good idea.
Could you talk a little bit about the relationship between the sponsors and the esports league and how this works? I mean, presumably these are sort of agricultural companies, John Deere, what do they kind of get out of this? And I mean, given the sort of, obviously as an audio designer, you'd be sort of making sure the sounds are absolutely accurate, because people would be, fussy about that. But how does it actually work when, you're dealing with sponsors who want their sort of tractor to say also be the best in the game?
Yeah, I mean, they know that we cannot overpower like a machine just because they want to. So we have our ideas and they have their ideas. So of course we have to find compromises. But yeah, I think still it's a win-win situation, because they have visibility at live events. They have visibility on Twitch, YouTube, and reach an audience which they usually wouldn't reach. And there was a sound question as well. Good. Okay. Any more? Okay. I think that's it then. All right. Thank you a lot and enjoy the development.